Hi guys, it's Ben Heath from Lead Guru, and in this video, I'm going to talk about what we should expect to happen with Facebook ads in 2021. We know that in an industry as dynamic as Facebook advertising, things change all the time, and we're likely to see some significant changes in 2021. So I want to talk about what we think they're likely to be, how you can get prepared for them, and of course take advantage of the opportunities that are going to come up as a result of these changes. Before I get into that, I just want to very quickly ask you to smash that like button, please click that thumbs up button, and of course subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are new and haven't done so already. Okay, so I've got a bunch of notes and a bunch of points that I want to make. I'm gonna run through when it comes to Facebook ads in 2021. And before I get into that, just very quickly say that, of course, we don't exactly know, right? Who could have predicted that what happened in 2020 was going to happen in 2020? And of course, as we know, that had a really big impact on all industries, but Facebook advertising included. We're still feeling some of the effects of that now, and we don't know when that's going to come to an end. You know what life's going to look like, and when in 2021, whether we get back to full regular life or not. So these things are obviously going to have an impact, and something completely unexpected could come up that we can't really predict. So I should sort of state that up front, that if you're watching this and something big has happened after I recorded this, well, this may not be as valid as it is when you're watching it fresh, but I still think this is worth going through. I still think there are trends and things we know are coming that we can predict, that we can prepare for, and I said that we can try and get ourselves in a good position to take advantage of. Okay, so point number one, I think this is basically guaranteed to happen in 2021, is that Facebook will continue its process of cracking down on rubbish businesses, on businesses that perhaps don't have the long term or their customers' best interest at heart. They're just in it to make a quick profit. And we definitely saw that in 2020, right? So Facebook's really been cracking down on advertisers that aren't delivering a fantastic customer experience. And if you're an e-commerce business, you've probably seen this, where Facebook has been very actively going after customer feedback, and they want to know from people that have interacted with advertisers' ads, what was the experience like? What was the product like? So you've probably seen feedback scores and things like that. And if your feedback score drops below a certain number for a certain amount of time, Facebook will disable your ability to advertise on the platform. They've really been doing that much more in 2020 than they had in previous years. And I think that's going to continue. And I think it's very important that Facebook do that. I think it's very important that they protect the sort of viability of the platform, not just for themselves, but also for us as Facebook advertisers. I think, unfortunately, enough people have had an experience now, enough users have had an experience where they've seen a Facebook ad or an Instagram ad for something that they like the look of. They click on it, they go through, they buy the product or service. Less so with the service, but more so with the product. They buy the product. It takes 3 or 4 weeks to turn up. It's from a drop shipper that's set up last month that is masquerading as a sort of more established business. They don't really have their customers' best interests at heart. They're just after a quick buck. Then when the product arrives, it's rubbish. You try and get in touch with the company. There's no customer support available, and it's all a bad experience. And I think Facebook are very aware that if too many of their users have that experience, they will start going, oh, don't buy anything from Facebook and Instagram ads. You just get rubbish businesses and poor quality products and lack of customer service. You're better off buying from brands or going elsewhere for products and things like that. So that is a real threat to Facebook advertising, and Facebook have been countering it big time in 2020 and will continue to do so with things like feedback scores. And they are going to be disabling more and more ad accounts, stopping more and more Facebook pages from advertising. So I think it's good for us in the long run, because we don't want Facebook advertising to get a bad name. We want to be able to advertise in this industry with the trust and confidence of our prospects, and that's very, very important. It does, however, mean that in these sort of waves of different disapprovals that Facebook advertising is going through, that your ad account could also get disabled. Now, this happens quite a lot. It's nothing to really worry about, provided you haven't been breaking the rules. You just need to request a review, go through a few steps, and you can get your Facebook ad account back. In fact, I've created a whole video about how you do that when you get a Facebook ad account disabled. So I'll include a link to that in the video description below. I'd recommend you check that out. But one thing I would recommend around that is be really careful with your ads, with your ad copy. Avoid certain trigger words that Facebook are likely to have an issue with in your industry. It completely depends depending on what industry you're in, what those trigger words are. Think about your ad creative, no close-ups of body parts, or there are various things that Facebook do not like. You need to be careful and be on top of that to try and not get your ad account disabled in the first place. But that is something we're going to continue to see, and overall it's good, even if it's frustrating in the short run. So point number 2 is kind of a continuation on from that, but it's a wider general theme. And that's that businesses in 2021 that have a longer term approach to Facebook advertising are likely to see better and better results. Now, we've seen this since, many, many years ago when we first started advertising on the platform, that when you advertise for an established brand, it doesn't have to be a huge brand, but something that we recognized within the industry they operate in, the results from the Facebook ad campaigns, you could have identical campaigns for an established brand and a completely unrecognizable brand, and the established brand is going to produce many, many more conversions, much lower cost per conversion, and in general, their results are going to be a lot better. And that process, I feel, is only increasing. The importance of a brand is increasing. And I think it is in part because of what I talked about, where people have had enough bad experiences now. There's still lots of people that are relatively new to online retail. The best practices for how to do things are still being developed for a lot of people. People know how to go buy things from shops and where to find the best stuff and which shops to go to. And online, do they really know? I think more and more people are turning towards brands because they've had that experience, not just through Facebook. I've personally ordered things through Amazon. I'm sure you have. And they turn up and you think, oh, that thing's rubbish. I wish I hadn't have bought that. I wish I'd have paid a bit more money and bought from a brand that I know. I think a lot of people have had that experience purchasing things online. I think they do that more and more. So that means they're going to buy more and more from brands they know and they trust. Okay, so what does that mean for you as a Facebook advertiser? Does it mean you should put all your money into brand awareness campaigns? No. I think one of the best ways to grow a brand is to acquire tons and tons of customers and deliver a fantastic customer experience. If you're a local business, like a restaurant, for example, acquire loads of customers, get loads of people to come in, offer a massive discount or whatever if you have to do that, provide a fantastic evening, show them that your decor's really nice and you've got a great, feeling in the place and there's a great atmosphere and the food's fantastic and the service is great. Obviously a little bit difficult, with lockdowns and things like that, depending on where you are. But by doing that, that builds a brand. That person then has a fantastic evening. They go away and tell their work colleagues, they tell their brother and sister and family members and friends and say, oh, have you been to that place down the road? It's fantastic. And then when your ad pops up in front of someone who hasn't been in yet, and the ad pops up and says, why don't you come along to our restaurant? And that person's been recommended it already by someone they know, they're far more likely to do so. The same applies to national businesses. Acquiring loads of customers, delivering a fantastic product or service, getting it so good that people feel the need to tell friends and family about it, means that when you advertise to those people's friends and family who are also into the same stuff, you're far more likely to generate a purchase. So I don't think you should be running brand awareness campaigns and putting all your budget behind those. I think you still want to be running conversion campaigns, as I recommend, but just really focus on the brand side of things as well. So make sure your packaging is fantastic. Make sure you've got really good customer service. Focus a lot on delivering a fantastic customer experience after the sale is made, and that makes a big, big difference. Okay, so that's point number 2. Right, point number 3. And I think this is perhaps the biggest thing we're going to see in 2021, is that we are going to continue to see privacy adjustments made to Facebook advertising, and to be honest, the whole digital marketing landscape, based on privacy reasons. So the big one is iOS 14. The iOS 14 release, I've already published a video on this, so go ahead and check that out. I'll include a link in the video description below. Is potentially, we don't know at this point, as of recording this video, potentially going to have a big impact on Facebook advertising. And I think there are changes that are going to be made based on, we don't want, or society is deciding they don't want, Facebook, Google, whatever, to be able to track people as much as they do now. And if the ability to track people as much as they do now goes away or is hampered, that's obviously going to affect Facebook advertising in its ability to target based on people's interests. Facebook's going to have a harder time working that out. It's going to affect Facebook's ability to optimize campaigns. It's going to affect Facebook's ability to provide you with data that you can use. So I think the clampdowns on privacy are going to have maybe a short-term negative impact. I think over the long run, it's a good thing. We, again, for the same reasons I mentioned in point 1, we don't want Facebook advertising to get a bad reputation. We don't want society as a whole to turn on these advertising platforms. And in order for them not to do that, we need to play by certain rules. Okay, so it's safeguarding the long term. But Apple have introduced, with the iOS 14, they're going to introduce a pop-up in Facebook and Instagram apps where people basically are being asked, do you want this app to track your activity online? And if people select no, which we feel a good chunk of people will, that is going to affect Facebook's ability to collect data, which we know is very important to Facebook advertising. So what does that mean? I think things like what we talked about, brand is going to become really important. It also means that we may have to change our approach in terms of campaign structure and things like that. Instead of trying to generate a short-term return on ad spend, so spending, $50 a day to make $100 a day, perhaps you need to take a longer-term approach and go, we're in the game of acquiring customers, less matching that up penny for penny with the revenue generated versus cost spent, because we know that acquiring customers is going to lead to increase in brand awareness, larger customer base that we can advertise to in the future and all that sort of stuff. I also think the crackdowns on privacy is going to make retargeting a little bit more difficult. So people that focus on, let's say, a 5 or 6, 7-step retargeting funnel, there are less and less of those now, but it's still a thing. They're going to struggle more and more. So you're going to want to get into more of a simpler sales funnel, the sort of thing I recommend anyway, right? Direct to offer, lead magnet strategy should still be fine. Omnipresence content strategy is absolutely fine. It's retargeting, but it's not done in a, you go through this step, then this step, then this step, then this step. It's more of a, we're putting all this stuff in front of these people consistently, and you should still be able to do that with these updates. But I do think that this is going to have an impact. How much we don't know. It is in the short run going to reduce the effectiveness of some Facebook advertising. Seems like a negative thing, and it may well be. There are also massive opportunities going to come out of that, right? If some advertisers leave because they don't know how to make it work in the new system, that's going to reduce competition. That's going to reduce costs. So those of us who stick it out, we may see even better results, okay, from some of these updates. So there are definitely positives to come out of this, even if it may seem like a little bit of a negative to us advertisers in the short run. I strongly recommend, by the way, you do check out that video that I've done about iOS 14 and what that's likely, the likely impact of that. Again, link will be in the video description with that one. We've also seen very recently that the EU have introduced some changes, again, primarily for privacy-related issues around Messenger. So there's not so many, so people who have been running message campaigns in the EU have had a lot of that functionality taken away. There are always going to be solutions to any changes that are made. You just have to be aware that there are changes. You have to work out what's going to work going forward. I'll be producing tons of content on all that sort of stuff, so don't worry about that, and stay on top of it. And as I said, it might work out beneficial, but it's important to be aware. And I think we may not have seen the last of this. Going into 2021, I think there's going to be more and more of this going forward, and we just got to adapt. Okay? Point number 4 is that apart from the impacts to the platform that are going to happen from sort of external changes like Apple's iOS 14 update, any government intervention, the platform's going to continue to improve. We've seen massive improvements in Facebook advertising over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And I think where possible, we're going to continue to see that. So what does that look like? That means that as an advertiser, I think you want to trust Facebook more and more. Go with what Facebook recommends. So for example, Facebook at the moment is strongly recommending you run conversion campaigns to post traffic. You want to do that. It really makes a big difference. We've got the data from Facebook. We've run tests ourselves. It makes a huge difference. Facebook are recommending automatic placements as opposed to edit placements. That is the best approach the vast majority of the time. Not quite always, but if you're running a conversion-based campaign, you do want to go with automatic placements. I think there's going to be more and more of this stuff within a Facebook ad account that Facebook's going to sort of recommend or have as default that you want to go ahead and use. And as some of those settings, perhaps targeting, perhaps delivery becomes more and more automated, the real differentiating factor here between us, between sort of high quality Facebook advertisers and those that get mediocre results, is going to be the ad creative. So that's really where you're going to want to differentiate, where you're going to focus. Of course, the offer and all that sort of stuff is very important as well, but that is going to be a big area of focus going forward. So that's something that I would recommend focusing on and being aware of, trusting them more and more, taking less into your own hands effectively with changes. Okay, point number 5 is around the cost of Facebook advertising. So there's a lot of factors that go into the cost of Facebook advertising. In 2020 in general, we saw times where the cost of Facebook advertising dropped. So initially, when we first went into the lockdowns in certainly countries like the UK, US, we saw a decrease in Facebook advertising costs. CPMs went down. Why did that happen? Not necessarily because there were fewer advertisers. There were some, a lot of businesses stopped advertising because they couldn't be open, a lot of local businesses, physical locations. Some scaled their budgets back down as well because they didn't know about their financial future, so that reduced competition. But also supply massively increased, right? Basically, populations were forced to stay at home. They were spending lots of time on social media, on their phones, iPads, computers, whatever, and that reduced the cost. That lasted perhaps a couple of months. More advertisers joined the platform in sort of mid-2020 because, of course, that's one of the only places they can now reach their customers. They may have advertised in all these other locations, but if people are stuck at home and they're spending a lot of time online, well, that's where you need to advertise to them. So then we saw the increase in cost come up out of that. We also saw spikes in costs for the election, the US election, particularly obviously in the US. We saw a reasonably expensive Q4. Q4 is always expensive because you've got Black Friday, you've got Christmas, but probably more so this year, again, because people know there's going to be a lot of online purchases, a lot of e-commerce activity, and also that's the place where they need to reach their customers, right? So what are we going to see in 2021? I think all things being equal, without massive impacts from the iOS 14 and things like that, which might be the case, by the way, guys. We might not see huge impacts from iOS 14. I think we see fairly stable costs throughout 2021. I think we've reached somewhat of an equilibrium under this new paradigm of people spending a lot more time at home, and I think that's likely to continue. As I said, if iOS 14 and any other privacy-related issues that come up and are introduced and curtail some of the data reporting in particular, and potentially some of the effectiveness now, but particularly the data reporting and Facebook ads, I think that's going to cause a lot of people to leave the platform. Where they'll go, I don't know, because as I mentioned in my previous video, the iOS 14 update is not just going to affect Facebook ads. You can't just think, I'll stop advertising on Facebook, I'll go and advertise on Google or something. All other platforms are going to be affected as well. It's not like Apple have said only Facebook can't track people's activity online. It's going to be all online advertising platforms. So where they'll go, who knows? But I do think there'll be a drop-off in some of the demand for Facebook advertising, which may well increase the cost. So for the first time in a long time, we may see a significant decrease in Facebook advertising cost, which obviously represents a massive opportunity for those of us that are able to work out how to make it work with the new system and the new setup. As I said, I'll have lots of content on that. So that is, I think we're likely to basically see stable costs or potentially a good decrease, depending on the effect of some of these big changes that are coming up. But, it's an interesting thing to think about. I think we're very unlikely to see an increase in cost, which is obviously great news for advertisers, not only because of what I've already mentioned, but also many countries are not going to be doing probably so well economically, and companies are going to be want to guarding their pennies a little bit more. So some of the bigger players might reduce marketing spend for 2021, all that sort of stuff. Okay. Right, point number 6, and this one again is perhaps not really one associated with 2021. It's probably going to have much more of an impact, if it does have an impact, later down the line. But Facebook have been hit with a lawsuit, an antitrust lawsuit, the objective of which is to basically get Facebook to split Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp into separate companies. The argument against Facebook is that they're a monopoly and they either buy or just copy whatever their competitors produce. And of course, governments for many, many decades have wanted to break up monopolies because they're seen as bad for the end user. So Facebook have said they've contested this. They said they will fight it and they will take it to court if need be, which probably means that this is going to be wrapped up in legal issues for years. So the impact of any lawsuit like this is likely to take years and years to have any impact on us as advertisers. If there's any impact it could have in 2021 is that Facebook may choose to delay using WhatsApp as a placement for Facebook ads. Now, you can use WhatsApp as a destination, so someone clicks an ad, they're sent through to WhatsApp now, and you have been able to do that for a while. But they haven't yet introduced WhatsApp as a placement option. Now, originally they said they were going to do that in 2020, but it never happened. And by a placement option, I mean, obviously you go on Facebook, you go on Instagram, you see ads just about wherever you go, you see them on your feed, all that sort of stuff. You don't see them in WhatsApp. You may well do going forward. You may see ads in between your various chats, or even within a chat, an ad might pop up. Facebook haven't done that, and they might decide not to, because I think if they're going to try and argue in this legal battle that they're not a monopoly, they will want their separate sort of entities in Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp to appear more like separate entities, not just one massive thing that's sort of welded together, and ads makes it feel more like that. They're going to want to argue that Facebook competes with Twitter and LinkedIn, and that WhatsApp competes with all the various messaging apps and things along those lines. Okay, so I don't think it's going to have a big impact. It might mean a delay in WhatsApp as a placement, which would be disappointing because I'm very intrigued to see what will happen with that when that does become available. But I've had a lot of questions about that. It's nothing to worry about in 2021. I'd be amazed if there's any sort of resolution on that in 2021. To be honest, I've done a lot of research into it, and I'm no lawyer, but given what I've read, it seems like the allegations are going to be very hard to prove and stick. So sort of the balance of probability from what I've read is that Facebook will be absolutely fine and they'll be able to sort of beat off this lawsuit. But of course we will see, and that is a developing thing. I think to us as Facebook advertisers, if the long-term consequence was that you advertise on Instagram through one website, you advertise on Facebook through another website because they're now separate entities, it wouldn't be the end of the world. You know, we'd adapt, we'd work it out, and it'd be absolutely fine. So, 6 points there. I think the overriding thing that I want to get across here is a message of positivity. It's easy, particularly with the iOS 14 updates and things like that, to get a little bit scared, a little bit anxious about what's coming. Obviously, you know, Facebook advertising is incredibly important to my business and it will be to many of yours. But change does not equal bad, right? It's easy to think it does, particularly if things are going well for you right now, but change could just as easily equal great, fantastic. And whenever there's change, there's going to be challenges. You're probably going to have to find slightly different ways of doing things. I'm going to have lots of content on that, so just make sure you keep watching the channel, subscribe, and keep an eye on the videos. But there's also going to be great opportunities. You know, if the effectiveness of some Facebook advertising features drops off and the competition leaves and costs go down, hey, that's great for those of us that stay, right? If Facebook find other ways of doing things now that they can't track as well, they may even improve the ad platform for all of us. We don't know what's going to happen, but I can guarantee there will be a mixture of challenges and there will be and opportunities. Okay, and how the year goes for you won't depend on what Facebook does to its ad platform or is forced to do. It's going to depend on how you react to those changes. Nothing you can do about them. You want to react in the best way possible, and I'm certainly going to help you through that. Okay, hope that's been useful. If it has, please give it a like. Please also, as I said, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. Comment below to let me know. Comment below if you've got any questions. I'll try and answer as many as I can, and I'll certainly see them all. Before you go, a couple of things that I quickly want to mention. The first is our Facebook advertising services. So my company, Lead Guru, is a Facebook advertising agency. We create, manage, and optimize Facebook and Instagram ad campaigns for our clients. And as I've already discussed, I think 2021 is going to be quite a turbulent year. I think there's going to be lots of changes. We're going to be very much on top of this, very much at the forefront of working it out. And if you want to get better results from what you're already getting right now, or you want help navigating those changes, we can certainly help you do that, okay? So if you're interested in our services, we do have a 3K per month minimum budget, so you need to meet that criteria. But if you do that criteria and you are interested in working with us, you can book a free call with one of my team right now. In fact, you can click on the link in the video description below. That'll take you to our page on the website. You can find a slot, you know, over the next days, weeks, whenever that works for you, and get that booked in, have an informal chat. We can tell you more about our service. You can tell us all about your business. We've probably worked with a business like yours before and got them great results. So we can share those details, you know, if we're able to. And yeah, that would be great to work with you, obviously. Other free thing I want to mention is my Facebook Ads Mastermind group. So free Facebook group full of Facebook advertisers. We're just shy of 60,000 members as of the recording this video. One of the biggest communities of Facebook advertisers in the world, which is absolutely amazing. I do free live trainings in that group regularly, and we would, we'd absolutely love to have you in there. So again, link in the video description. There's a whole bunch of links in the video description, so check that out. But go ahead and join, and we'd love to have you, and I think you get a lot of value out of it. Questions are being asked, answered all the time, and yeah. Okay, best of luck with your Facebook ad campaigns, guys. I am looking forward to 2021. I think there's going to be massive opportunities. I hope you are as well, and I will talk to you soon. Bye for now. Bye.